here for the show?
I'm definitely here for the show!
Between Hitmonkey, Harley Quinn, and now Twisted Metal, I understand that trailers for comedy shows tend to make them look horrifically unwatchable, no matter how good they may be when you see the final product. I've come to report that despite the marketing doing a major disservice, Peacock's Twisted Metal TV series is actually pretty good! I've been a fan of the game since, 2001, I guess? And I can confidently say that the show pulled off a really entertaining tribute to the characters and history of the series, and left me wanting to see more. Join me and Pan Pizza, driver of the RebelTaxi and one of my YouTube idols, as we run down what made this show such a fun ride and how much we want it to keep on trucking further down the road. Car pun! Now, word from our sponsor. Special thanks to Manta Sleep for sponsoring this video. Manta Sleep is dedicated to creating better lives through better sleep and their pro-nap movement through their affordable and well-crafted sleeping masks. The pro-nap movement is about rejecting counterproductive, nap-shaming corporate BS and reclaiming what should have always been yours in the first place, your vitality. Because the truth is, your body is wired to nap, and for good reason. Naps give you energy, focus, strength, and clarity that you don't get when you grind through the afternoon. They give you what we call a second morning. Manta Sleep's masks come in a variety of different styles for different sleeping needs. For example, my wife has a hard time sleeping at night because I like to leave the TV on and watch cartoons until 3 a.m. So the Manta Steam Mask helps her to relax and hydrates dry or itchy eyes with relief in just 3 to 5 minutes. The soft, durable, and snag-free materials make it a worthy inclusion in your sleep cycle. Head to Manta Sleep's website and use my discount code for 10% off your first purchase. Now back to the video.
One of PlayStation's most recognizable franchises that they gave up on, Twisted Metal is a fighting game on wheels. Car combat with missiles, napalm, and human projectiles that explode. Depending on which of your chosen drivers wins the Twisted Metal tournament, you'll watch them earn a single wish by the contest holder, Calypso. So, these wishes act as a monkey's paw as nothing ever goes right. These games were brutal, funny, horrific, and on the rare occasions, emotional. This TV series manages to mix all that together. For years, I've heard rumors of a TM movie or show, only to finally be fulfilled as a longtime fan. In high school, I bought Twisted Metal head-on just because, it was $20 new. Well, that just opened the floodgates for me. Really, when coming up with RebelTaxi, some spitballed name ideas were TM references, Harbor City and Yellow Jacket, which was the taxi vehicle. How I draw my Loki IRL character is influenced by how I used to draw Sweet Tooth in my school planner. I love the games and its ever-changing continuity. Many people assume the dark reboot, Twisted Metal Black, is how all the games are, but no. Nearly each one was different. What's the origin of a certain character? Who drives the car? What race are they? What's their special move? That all changes depending on the game. The first clip of the TV series shown off angered fans with the, quote, MCU humor.
I'm guessing you don't fight much outside of your car now, do you?
Even the director of the games, David Jaffe, was disgusted by the Comic-Con footage of Sweet Tooth the Clown twerking.
What in the goddamn, fucking Sam Hill?
I was a bit wary too, but I accepted the earlier games didn't take themselves seriously either. Plus, Michael Jonathan Smith was on board, a major writer for multiple Cobra Kai seasons. He mentioned wanting to pull references from every game. Which was perfect. Cobra Kai is full of character drama and fan service. Twisted Metal could do the same.
My dad rented Twisted Metal Black from Hollywood Video around the time it came out, and some of my first memories are him and my uncle playing it all day and night during the weekends trying to get every ending with every character. When I was that age, this game seemed so adult and hardcore, but looking back now, I see that it still had some silly points. In terms of the franchise, it's still the darkest because you get a character who is the literal Grim Reaper and was absorbing souls into his cackling skeleton body, and then see him turn into a disturbed cannibalistic Vietnam veteran in an insane asylum. But like, Sweet Tooth's ice cream truck still turns into a transformer. I knew when I got to the 2012 game that the ideal tone for the series was a nice middle ground between the silly and grimdark takes. I think the Peacock series, God what a terrible name for a streaming service, hits that sweet spot because it knows when to get dark and cruel, but it also knows how to have fun. I was never completely uncomfortable and depressed watching the show, but I wasn't also getting irritated by the overuse of humor in inappropriate moments. It managed to toe that line so that I was vibing with it and having fun throughout all 10 episodes. The series follows a delivery driver in a post-apocalyptic United States that has to go on a cross-country road trip to pull off a job that no one else can. Sam Porter Bridges, with the promise of being able to move into one of the few communities that hasn't been affected by the catastrophe if he can bring back a package successfully from the other side of the nation. Along the way, he keeps bumping into wacky characters from the franchise like Agent Stone, Sweet Tooth, Mike and Stu, The Preacher, Amanda Watts, and Granny Dread.
6 bullets, each with your name on it. If you don't get out of my car right now.
That said, I'm willing to negotiate.
John Doe is our lead, but he suffers from amnesia and desperately wants to know where he came from. But he also deflects a lot of the craziness of the world he's in with humor. He never shuts up, and even the other characters acknowledge that he's got a joke for everything.
Hey, ORL, please.
Did you just ask me for oral?
I think this is the first show or movie I've seen him in that's made me really love Anthony Mackie. I thought he was okay as Sam Wilson, but that character tends to take himself more seriously, barring the usual MCU quips. And it made me realize that Mackie has some great comedy chops when he has better jokes to tell. He really lets out his inner Axel Foley in this show, and he's so endearing and fun to watch here. I actually wish he got to play more roles like this because he's hilarious. The other lead is an original character created for the series, who is given the nickname Quiet because she doesn't speak much. She also absorbs moisture through her skin. Given that she had a brother named Loud, and they had such an in-depth backstory and a fun gimmick of one being serious and the other being the loudmouth, I genuinely thought that they were both characters from one of the games I hadn't played. Maybe like a PSP spin-off or something. They just fit into this world and bounce off these characters well enough that I didn't give it a second thought. So they're good additions to the franchise, unlike other OCs created for video game adaptations that stick out like a sore thumb. After seeing so many deep-cut references to the game characters and lore in all of the locations like Blackfield Asylum or Zorko Brothers Scrap and Salvage, I couldn't help but think of that Halo series set on Planet Reach where the game takes you to New Alexandria and the show has Reach City. You can really tell the difference between a show made by people who didn't really know or understand anything about the games and a show made by people who clearly loved the games and wanted to cram in as many people and locations from it as they were able to.
There were references that had me saying, really? You put that in? I was impressed. The show was strangely not quite Twisted Metal, yet very Twisted Metal. Supernatural elements aren't here, yet they organically worked in wishes or flaming heads. And if you're gonna add new characters to a show, make them as toyetic as possible. Quiet's outfit is unique enough to fit that. Same for the cult that covered themselves with tinfoil. If you told me there was a driver called Tinhead from Twisted Metal Windshield Wiper, I wouldn't believe it since I played every game. But if I didn't, I would believe it. It's not quite Twisted Metal, but all I need was car destruction, and that's here.
The games always center around a contest between these crazy characters, where they battle each other in their souped-up death machines for the prize of a wish being granted by the mysterious and powerful creator of the contest, Calypso. Every character in the game has something thereafter, and when you play as them, you unlock their ending where they win the contest and get to make their wish. Imagine a vehicle-based equivalent to Mortal Kombat. The fun thing is that Calypso's a smartass and gives the winners some sort of ironic twist to their wish, so they end up getting screwed over no matter what they ask for.
We demand that you give us the ability to fly!
Certainly.
That is so cool! Let's go! Wahoo!
Good thing these first-class tickets are refundable.
With this structure, every character has a well-defined backstory, personality, and desire that makes for a strong cast in the games.
The demon brought its foul influence upon me and entered my mind. All I could do was cry out inside as I tore that church apart, killing everyone in the church.
Are you possessed?
I was once by a little demon baby. Fucker made me kill a whole church of people.
Which the show utilizes very well. Every character who appears in the series has pretty much the same backstory and personality, just modified slightly to fit this modern take on the Twisted Metal world, or relate them to each other a little bit more, so you get a sense that these guys cross paths relatively often. The only problem is that they just really don't use the cars as much as they should, given what the franchise is about. There were certain points where I was wondering why so much of the action was happening outside of vehicles. Like here, you had a perfect opportunity for someone to get run over, but then it's just gunplay. Or like all these characters pulled directly from the games and a big fight scene where they're just punching each other and using knives indoors. I was expecting this moment to be a setup for all the characters to run into the parking lot and get into their respective death machines for a big race to steal the prize package from John Doe, but they resolve it at the bar and we don't even get to see these rides. We also don't get Calypso's contest yet, as that's apparently being saved for Season 2. It's like how that new Mortal Kombat movie is set before the tournament starts, except this show is better than that movie. You know, by a lot. It's not that I think the show didn't want to do more of the car battles. They seem to really revel in it when they get the chance to do it, but it was likely a budgetary constraint. They still worked in so many nice little touches that evoke the feeling of the gameplay, like John Doe drifting around every corner he can, getting into the back of a semi-truck trailer for repairs, Juggernaut spawning new vehicles into battle, and running out of the bigger weapons on your car. There's even a scene where John and Quiet are customizing a car and it feels like they're talking about stats in the game's menu when deciding which weapons to use.
It's about balance. We have weapons, armor, speed, and handling. Too much of one, you lose the other.
There's still a really visible love for the source material here, especially with anything to do with Sweet Tooth, the serial killer dressed like a clown who drives an ice cream truck.
Here, catch. There's a good boy.
He's the game series mascot because he's the most popular character and really earns the twisted part of the title. Samoa Joe and Will Arnett team together to play Sweet Tooth, and it just works so well. I love that they went the Darth Vader method, where one actor plays the body and the other is the voice. Both of them are just killing it, and it works because they're doing their respective jobs so well. Samoa Joe fills out the costume perfectly and has such a fun screen presence. He really sells the physicality of this character as an unstoppable monster that's hamming it up and having so much fun being as brutal as possible. He moves like a cartoon character, he's just got so much energy. But Will Arnett gives a really great performance with the voice, where he's riding the line of being funny and genuinely unsettling.
You can hide, but I have ways to find you. Marco! Damn, that usually works.
After the first 2 or 3 scenes, I stopped even thinking about the character being 2 actors at once. I just fully bought that that guy's voice was coming from behind that guy's mask, and I believed in the performance. This show is never as exciting and fun as it is when Sweet Tooth's on screen. He just totally steals the show, and I can really see the love for that character in particular. They even brought in his paper bag best friend from the ending of the first game and his flaming head from the sequels. Plus, they revised his backstory in a way that kinda reminded me of the movie Nope, so do with that what you will.
Please, no, I got a family.
Shut up and bleed, you motherfucker.
Marcus, wait!
Shut up and bleed, you motherfucker. If you're not gonna tell the truth, then I'm gonna make you shut up and bleed.
Plus, the teasers for other major characters has me really excited based on how well they treated the ones here.
Oh, and John, may all your wishes come true.
I have to see more of Calypso since what little dialogue he gets feels pulled straight from the game. Even the characters in the show know he's awesome and are excited to hear more of him.
Wait a minute. Are you Calypso?
What?
Yeah, are you him? I guess that means yes.
John and Quiet's relationship over the course of all 10 days in the season is really well fleshed out, and they're fun to watch together. They're dysfunctional in an entertaining way most of the time, but there are times when it does feel like they aren't getting along just to pad out episode length, and their conflicts start and stop repetitively. It feels like every TV show these days needs a character development episode, where the plot stops dead in its track and the characters are stuck in one space arguing and planning to derail the adventure. It's that episode where the superhero considers quitting and getting rid of their costume, maybe even loses their powers temporarily. Then at the last minute is motivated to keep going anyway. Like Spider-Man No More, but it happens in the middle of every season of television to every character regardless of what they're doing. But even that episode for Twisted Metal was fun in its own way and not totally painful. There's a funny sex scene in a ball pit.
There was plenty of action at the beginning and end, not so much in the middle where that budget was running thin. Loved the humor, but some moments could have been handled without spoon-feeding dialogue. Let the visuals speak for themselves. We also got some emotional character growth, something you would not expect. Only rarely have the games did stuff like that. Yeah, I did get a little annoyed at how often the main duo argued, but surprised at where it ended up. I'm hoping Peacock says, hey, look, we don't got anything else on our streaming service, and let's get a bunch of more episodes and a bigger budget for this. Imagine a Fast and Furious situation where the first season is fairly down to earth, and yet the later seasons, maybe the clown truck mechs come in, and skeleton racers, and remote-controlled corpses. You know, organically work in that fantasy stuff in there.
I do also hope this show gets watched enough to continue. According to Peacock, one of the many streaming services that refuses to make their viewer counts public, this is the most binged comedy show on their service. Coming from the one place where you can still watch The Office, that should be pretty good, right? It's just a shame that none of the writers and actors who worked on it get paid any residuals. So go support them with these resources in the description. After the aforementioned slow spell in the middle episodes, the season finale gives us the car carnage we've all been waiting for. I remember seeing the scene and turning to my dad, who was watching it with me, to say, hey look, the Twisted Metal is happening! And it's beautiful. Cars slamming into each other, missiles flying through the air, and mounted machine guns blasting each other to scrap. If I had any complaint at all, and this is likely just the Twisted Metal Black fan in me, is that I would have set this final scene at night. Seeing it in broad daylight just doesn't feel as dramatic and shows their hand with the budgetary limitations. I can see that they just walled off a big parking lot and local racetrack to use for the set, populated it with a few beat-up cars, and I can practically feel the edge of this set where the real world starts again. If it were filmed at night, I think it'd be easier to obscure how small or large this space was for the fight, and it wouldn't feel as constrained. Plus, all the fire and explosions would look cooler with that orange glow in the dark, illuminating all the busted up vehicles.
Our apocalypse happened in 2002. I wanted to do that because the 90s and 2000s was like when these games came out, and that's just so synonymous, for me at least, with the time.
Hey, wait a minute. Why is there a Chevy HHR there? That car didn't exist in 2002. I know because I drive one. I know it's a stupid thing to complain about, like who cuts the grass in Walking Dead, or why doesn't all the gasoline in these cars jellify after a certain amount of time? Doesn't matter, just watch Sweet Tooth light his head on fire and have a good time. I was pleasantly surprised by the show, and I'd love to see it come back for a season 2. If you're a fan of the games or just want a decent action show to watch, check it out on Peacock, the world's 8th most popular streaming service. Actually, I think 9th now. Special thanks to Pan the Taxi Man for helping me cover this show. Go check him out in the links below. I always get mad at YouTube for not putting my videos in the subscription box because people will comment, finally, Xavier uploads again after all these years, not knowing 3 other videos came out within the last month already. So maybe that stupid bell icon thing will help you remember I exist. If you want other ways to support the channel, you can always go hit up that Patreon for early videos and exclusive stuff because it's just $1. I'm not kidding, it's only $1. Isn't that cool? If everyone who watched this video donated $1 a month, I'd be able to afford a house for myself, so that would be really cool. You can also check out our merch on TeePublic, or just buy some of my random stuff on eBay. I have a pretty substantial collection of old toys that are still in the box in perfect condition, so go take a look in case you find something you like. And lastly, since this is a YouTube video and you probably play Fortnite, drop my creator code XavierGM next time you buy a silly dance or a cool character skin. Really helps me out. See you next time.